your hosts, Marcus Katkin and Matt Dubin.
Peyton Manning, Greg Olsen, Calvin Johnson, Odell Beckham, and your boy Adrian Peterson. Matt, what do they have in all common?
They all let us down.
Well, that, and we should cut them, right? I mean, it's week one. They all did terrible. We
Absolutely not.
Jump to conclusions here and just cut them. Just get rid of them.
No, that's the beauty. Week one, I call them buy low.
Too many people. That was kind of the point. I was being facetious, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But there's too many people out there that week one, a bad week, and they just jump all over these guys like they're nothing. But some of those guys, I mean, Greg Olsen, I've heard people thinking about cutting Greg Olsen for some of those other tight ends that kind of blew up this week, which is a whole other topic in itself. I can't believe how many tight ends blew up this weekend, but it's just crazy to me. I mean, I don't think 1 week should change that much of your opinion that you had going into the season.
Right. I mean, guys like Brian Quick who are healthy and actives, it's time to rethink, stuff like that. But certainly game flow dictates stuff. First game, it's hard to predict, especially when you're talking the first game. Things have changed. There was a whole entire offseason. If you liked them all offseason, one game shouldn't change your opinion on them too much. I mean, there are points where you want to take what you've seen and file them away. But like I said, every name you mentioned to me, even maybe Peyton Manning, although we'll talk about a little more, is a buy low for me. If you liked them last week, you still got to like them. After one game, you can't be throwing these guys under the bus.
The only way I think you can look at week one data and come away with a change of opinion from pre-draft is snap counts and target counts. Because that's going to give you an idea of how they're utilized. I mean, I think, like I said, guys like Greg Olsen I'm not worried about.
No,
even to your
definitely
point,
not.
Peyton Manning, a little worrisome with his accuracy, but it's Peyton Manning. You give it some time, guys, and let's see how it rolls. One of my home leagues, I think I told you about this, Matt, I saw James Jones get traded straight up for Tom Brady. And I thought that was absolutely crazy.
Yep, insane.
That's just nuts to me. I mean, this is a 16-team league, so quarterbacks are obviously a little bit more valuable in a 16-team league. So even more crazy because of that. But
maybe that other guy thought he was banned for 4 games still. He might have missed the news.
Honestly,
even still.
Honestly, living in New England, at first I saw it in the the activity for the league, and I saw Jay Jones for Tom Brady. And I'm like, oh my God, someone traded away Julio before he blew up Monday night.
Yeah.
For Tom Brady because of what Tom Brady did. And then I saw it was James Jones, and I was even more appalled.
Both of them would be a little bit unbelievable. But I guess in a 2-quarterback league, maybe not so much for the Julio thing. But James Jones, wow.
Yeah, pretty
Get that
crazy.
guy in my league next year.
But don't jump to conclusions, guys, after 1 week. You guys obviously studied all offseason and all preseason to pick the guys that you did. Stick with them, roll with them. Don't jump off the bandwagon so quickly. But, Matt, let's start getting into this week's games. Week 2 already. Hopefully everybody out there is 1-0 already. But tomorrow night, Broncos and Chiefs. C.J. Anderson still questionable for tomorrow. Me, personally, I think he plays. What say you about C.J. Anderson? And if he does play, are you starting him?
Yeah, turf toe, right? I mean, he played through it. It happened during the game. It's kind of interesting because of the turf toe. Was that why Hillman got so much work, or was this a plan all along? Tough to say. I think he plays, considering, like I said, that he did finish the game with this injury. But short rest, playing a Thursday night game after playing Sunday. I could see him sitting out if he does. DFS alert.
Yeah, I mean,
Ronnie Hillman.
I saw this game on Sunday, and he was obviously ineffective before the turf toe injury, and then we saw Hillman come in and play a lot of snaps and get a lot of carries and be way more effective. And then we saw Anderson kind of, like to your point, come back into the game at the end, get a few snaps, and was still very unproductive. If you can help it, I think you stay away from C.J. Anderson this week. Short week. Obviously dealing with this injury, was very ineffective last week. And I think Ronnie Hillman has a little bit bigger role. I guess if you drafted C.J. Anderson, I mean, I wasn't a guy that drafted him in any of my leagues because I didn't like him, but I guess you might have to roll with him because you spent an early round pick on him. Maybe you don't have the depth, but I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully you got Ronnie Hillman too, and you've got him for a great pivot if he's out. But as good as Hillman looked and as good as he really has looked the last few years when he gets his time, I'm worried if I'm a C.J. Anderson fan. I don't know. I mean, owner. I know traditionally Manning likes to keep the same running back going. He plays at a fast pace. A little bit different story here. So I don't know. This is one of the reasons I stayed away from C.J. Anderson. I'm like you. I don't have him in anything. Hillman is too good to keep off the field, and that was a worry I always had, regardless of injury.
Yeah. Chiefs side here, though, Matt, I think you were a pretty big Travis Kelce guy. Big game last week, over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Part of the tight end boom that we were talking about. You're expecting more from Kelce in this game?
Yeah, I mean, he's an extremely talented player who hasn't quite lived up to potential yet. He was kind of a little bit of a timeshare with Fasano through the last few years back in Kansas City. So Fasano's gone now. This is his job, and I mean, the talent was no question. The guy is a beast. He's extremely athletic. So, yeah, I'm expecting this is kind of what I was thinking from obviously not a game like this every week, but a guy that's in your top 5, easy top 5 tight ends, as high as top 3 even for me. For
those keeping track at home, Alex Smith 3 touchdowns last week, still none to a wide receiver.
Yeah,
I think that's going to change.
Definitely,
he liked Jeremy Maclin a lot in the preseason. Just thought it was kind of funny. 3 touchdowns for Alex Smith and still none to a wide receiver.
Speaking of Alex Smith, though, this is the reason why he was picked ahead of Aaron Rodgers. He's better than him, right?
Oh, obviously.
Yeah, overreaction week 1. He looked good, but temper your expectations. I think he has a lot more weapons to work with. Jeremy Maclin is a slight upgrade to Dwayne Bowe, maybe a little more than slight. Please hear my joke there, because this could be a nice year for him. He's a guy
Bowe, healthy and active, by the way, for Cleveland.
Yeah, well, why wouldn't he be? He's horrible.
Broncos, though. I mean, we talked about Peyton a little bit. Does that make you worried more for guys like Demaryius and Emmanuel Sanders? Emmanuel Sanders, though, did look pretty good. Get a lot of targets from
and just missed on a couple plays too with him. Last year, I kind of fell into the loop of getting worried about Tom Brady, and I was wrong. We were wrong. We never really buried him, but we were starting to believe that he may be done. I can't quite go there yet. It's week 1. Peyton is just one of those guys. You know what, though? Father Time is undefeated. You hear that all the time. So my radar is up. If I have Peyton Manning, I'm looking to pick up a Mariota, Alex Smith type guy, if they're out there, which they are in a lot of leagues, just to hedge my bets here, because he really didn't look very good. But week 1, new offense. Sometimes when you're doing a little more thinking than just playing, that can obviously affect things. So I'm not going to just say he's done yet. No way.
No. Texans at Panthers. Texans getting a new starting quarterback this week with Ryan Mallett. I honestly think this helps DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins, when Mallett came into the game last week, 5 for 5 on targets and receptions. Had a touchdown with Mallett, had a 2-point conversion with Mallett. Mallett's got the bigger arm. I think this helps DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, I mean, Hopkins and Hoyer had a nice little rapport going in the preseason, but we know what Hoyer is, so I don't know. I can't believe he got the job in the first place. Mallett is kind of an unproven. Got a little bit of work last year finally, but big arm, no doubt about it. Throw it in the catching radius of Hopkins, which is rather large, and he's going to come down with it most often. So, regardless of who the quarterback is, Hopkins is a beast.
Yeah, we talked about it in the preseason. I mentioned about how I thought he could be the Odell Beckham of this year.
Yeah,
and so far he's proven it.
Garbage touchdowns count.
Yeah. Panthers side, not really much to talk about here. Cam Newton played like crap last weekend, which brought down the values.
That.
Yeah, I mean, we brought down the values of guys like Greg Olsen, like we talked about earlier. I'm not starting Cam this week if I can help it. I think I have him ranked 14th or 15th in my rankings this week. I got him actually 16th, so I'm way down on him this week. But Greg Olsen, I'm still on, even in DFS. I think in DFS it's actually going to be even better for him because the ownership percentage is going to go down. Where are you on the Carolina offense? I mean, I've never been a Jonathan Stewart guy. He got a lot of touches, but didn't really produce either.
Yeah, he had plenty of work. So talking Greg Olsen first, I think he only had 3 targets, if my memory serves me correct. Is that right? Look that up for me. There's 2 trains of thought with Greg Olsen, and I think last week I actually said in the podcast, who else he got to throw to? I expect a nice game out of him. But then again, it's pretty easy when you're a defense and you've got to worry about guys like Brown and
Cotchery.
Yeah, Cotchery.
Devin Funches,
who hardly played. So it's pretty easy to focus on Greg Olsen. He's clearly their best pass catcher they have. So that is something that worries me about Olsen. You can game plan and to make sure you stop him and let it go everywhere else, because who's going to hurt you, you know? So I do think he's a good enough player to overcome that. And I think the targets at 3, I'm pretty sure it was this weekend.
Yeah, it was 3.
Is something I'm not going to expect often. But you know, after the way it went for Cam this weekend, maybe he's going to look at the film and realize maybe I should throw to him a little more. Even when he's covered, he could be open, and most likely, even if he's covered, it's a better option than wide open Philly Brown.
Philly Brown.
You know, I always get trouble with that first name, and it's an interesting one. He changes it from time to time. So.
Corey Brown, Philly Brown, whatever you know
I think
him
he's
as.
Philly again now. So
yeah, he is Philly. Texans, I think, stinky defense in here. Carolina Panthers' offensive line has been in shambles. Did not look good in the preseason, and now they get Vince Wilfork and J.J. Watt. So I think that's going to be real interesting.
You know, Clowney's working himself back into form too. He was on a little bit of a snap count this weekend, but all I've been hearing is that he looks like this is going to be the breakout year, and you know the potential is obviously
got to be
there
better than
him.
last year.
yeah, that's for sure. So he's going to be more involved in the game plan as the weeks go by too, and that's going to only do nothing but help them. So nice defense in Houston.
49ers and Steelers. Carlos Hyde obviously breaking out last week. Not a lot of us, or at least I didn't see this happening, but Reggie Bush obviously getting injured makes him have more of the workload now. 28 touches last week. And now he gets the Steelers' defense that allowed 120 total yards to Dion Lewis last week. So I think it could be another nice game here for Carlos Hyde.
Well, we know one guy who watched most of that game. Well, I'll admit it, every single snap of that game.
Your Vikings are
here
terrible.
On the East Coast, I was up till 1 o'clock to watch that. My Vikings are not terrible. Expect to bounce back this week against Detroit. Carlos Hyde is that good. He is a number 1 running back. Marcus, you and I have had a little bit of a conversation about this, but I'll say it on the podcast now. He's top 12 rest of season.
No, not for me.
Did you happen to see the spin move cut
Yes,
back around?
sure.
I mean, the guy at 230 pounds has great feet.
You know who else has
outstanding
power?
power.
You know who else has a nice spin move? Giovanni Bernard. Is he a top 12 running back? No.
No, he's a little different, though. This is a bell cow guy who, with Bush going down, it's just a calf strain. I was thinking it may have been a little worse the way it looked. But calves are tough. Calves are interesting. Ask Victor Cruz. It's a guy who I just he's been held back because he was behind All-Pro Hall of Famer in Frank Gore. He got his chance Monday night, and he showed that they have taken a huge step up. Frank Gore can't wear this guy's jock at this point in their career. Like I said last week, in a quarter of the carries last year, he had more broken tackles than Frank Gore did. So that's a pretty neat stat when you're talking about a Hall of Famer, a Hall of Fame running back.
A 31-year-old Hall of Famer last year.
No, I love Carlos Hyde. I'm saying it right now, top 12 rest of season running back. RB1.
I don't see it. I don't think he can.
The only caveat to that is knowing that it is just a strained calf. We'll see how much when Bush gets back, how much they work him into it. He looked good for the 2 touches he had before the injury.
Steelers side, Antonio Brown, beast, and will continue to be so, I think, in this game. I have him in almost every one of my cash lineups for DFS. But not only is Brown really good, and that's why I like him, but it's also because DHB and Marcus Wheaton are terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, Wheaton, he's a bum. He's a bum. I'm done trying.
We don't even need to talk about them. I think it is good to point out though. Martavis Bryant, if you can go out and trade for him now, start going out and trade for him now, because when he comes back, I think he's going to be a really, really good asset to that team.
Hopefully, the Des Bryant owner also has Martavis Bryant, and you could just go scoop him up for nothing because he needs somebody right now. That would be ideal.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Not really much else to talk about in this game.
Well, D'Angelo, what do you think? This is his last game as the guy. He looked pretty good last week in New England, but also New England very good.
He's for me, he's still not the goal line guy. He never really was, and I don't know. I'm not saying I believe in the 49ers defense, but they shut down Peterson.
Yeah,
and D. Will is no Peterson.
No, but game flow too. Peterson had 10 carries.
3.1 yards a carry though.
Yeah,
it just I don't know. I've never been a D. Will guy. I still am not going to be a D. Will guy. They are projected to win by 6 points, so you could see them lean on the run a little bit more later in the game. But
did you say he's not the goal line guy?
Well, I mean, I guess he is the only goal line guy.
Yeah, who the hell is
Will Johnson did get one carry inside the red zone. Actually, I think at the goal line, literally. Yeah. But I think they're the type of offense that will go to Heath Miller in the red zone, that type of thing.
Yeah.
It's never been his style of play. I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
they had Tolbert back in Carolina.
New offense, new team. Maybe it's going to be different, but I don't know. I'm just staying away from that situation. Buccaneers at Saints. Saints are going to roll over the Bucs. They're 11-point favorites right now. I love me all the Saints. I hate me all the Bucs.
I agree. It's going to be a blowout. So I don't hate me Austin Seferian-Jenkins again. He had a really nice week last week.
Yeah, but how much of that was, again, game flow?
I get a feeling they're going to get blown out again. They're going to be throwing quite a bit. We heard
I guess
a lot
it's the same game flow then.
Yeah, exactly. So garbage points count, like I said. So,
do you think if Evans comes back, that changes anything?
I guess, yeah, sure. There's another supreme talent to get the ball to, but I think there's going to be plenty of targets to be had out there. This is probably going to be another blowout. Jameis Winston he looked bad. You figure he'll obviously improve. That's the reason he was the first pick, I hope.
Can't get any worse.
Yeah. I don't think... I think Austin Seferian-Jenkins, pick him up if you already haven't, and play him if you have him.
Yeah, Seferian-Jenkins I could see picking him up and maybe...
And Vincent Jackson, 2 targets that almost were touchdowns, or I know one of them for sure. One
of them was a touchdown
that's
that
true.
they should have challenged.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you. So
interesting. Me, as a guy that had Vincent Jackson in a lot of GPPs.
Yeah,
trust me.
Imagine if he would have had one of the 2.
Terrible.
He would have half of his total from last year. Obviously, I think Evans not being there may have been a good reason for that.
And that was the other reason why I liked him so much this week in DFS. No Evans. It's only the V-Jack show.
So I'm talking myself into it. All 3 of them, if Evans is playing as well, it's going to be a blowout. They're going to be throwing the ball. I like
Jameis
them all.
Winston.
He's horrible. He looked horrible.
He is horrible. Saints side, I guess the only thing you have to be worried about here is because it's such a blowout, maybe Breeze doesn't throw as much and he leans on the run, which means maybe, obviously Ingram gets his work, but maybe he doesn't get a ton of work, and maybe we start to see more Kyrie Robinson, or maybe CJ Spiller if CJ Spiller's back.
We saw plenty of Kyrie Robinson last week. It's the same old in New Orleans. They just like to kind of spread it around.
Lions at Matt's Vikings. I don't know. 2 underperforming first and second round picks here. Adrian Peterson and Calvin Johnson. Do either of them crack the top 10 at their position this week?
Calvin, no. Xavier Rhodes will shut him down. Not necessarily
spoken like a
shut
Vikings
him down.
fan.
Not necessarily shut him down. Well, for any fan, Xavier Rhodes is one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. We generally do a pretty good job against Calvin. We talked about this last year on the podcast. Obviously, I don't remember the numbers, but they do a nice job against Calvin. The thing is he going to be held down for 2 weeks in a row? He was very, very rarely targeted last week, which was interesting to me. I'm a Vikings fan. It's hard to ask me questions about Minnesota. I'm obviously a little bit of favored towards them. I think they bounce back. I think Adrian bounces back. And as much as I want to say Calvin's going to get shut down, I don't know if I can see him having 2 rather horrendous games in a row.
You know what's embarrassing for this game? Matt, I know you're going to obviously watch it because you're a huge Vikings fan, but we got this we're looking on ESPN. It's showing us a little players to watch here tab where it's showing us kind of, the the biggest rushing guy and the biggest receiving guy for both teams combined. Abdullah with 50 rushing yards and Mike Wallace with 63 receiving yards.
Exciting.
Those are the two top guys on, the
highlights.
The highlights of both teams, apparently. 50 rushing yards and 63 receiving yards. This is going to be an ugly game.
Ask Eric Weddle, though. He'd probably agree that the player to watch here was Amir Abdullah.
Oh, Abdullah looked great.
That juke move he put on Weddle to score was hilarious. Weddle is an outstanding safety, one of the best in the NFL. He didn't even touch him. It was a total whiff.
Redrafting the rest of the season, I will take Abdullah over Joyke Bell. No question.
I just hope
not even close.
I hope Caldwell realizes that, too.
It's crazy.
He needs to play more, but he's still returning kicks. I mean, that just tells me they don't have huge plans for him in the near future. You don't send your superstar running back there to...
You say that, but Antonio Brown returns punts.
Yeah, I hear you.
I mean, similar situation. It's not kickoffs. It's not as bad.
Yeah,
but,
okay. You want 7 points, 6 points, regardless of how it happens. So,
I mean,
put him down there to return. But God, did he look good? He is awesome.
Cardinals at Bears.
Are you worried about Charles Johnson?
I wasn't really on Charles Johnson to begin with.
A lot of people were.
Eh.
Nice late round value pick who really didn't do anything. Don't worry about it, guys.
Cardinals Bears. I don't know. Carson Palmer had a nice game last week. I think he has another nice one here against the Bears. The only problem there is he's another guy who spreads it around enough that you don't really, who's going to be the top Cardinals receiver this week?
Yeah.
You don't know.
No.
You just don't. John Brown looked good.
So did Larry.
Fitzgerald, lots of yards, lots of receptions, no touchdowns.
6 for 87, yeah.
For DFS purposes, I like Palmer, but I don't think I would stack him with anybody. I don't think for tournaments I would find a good stack because maybe John Brown because you're hoping that he hits for 2 deep touchdowns or something stupid like that, but I don't think there's a good stack here.
No, I agree. The guy to really talk about obviously here is the Andre Ellington injury, out 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah. So Chris Johnson's going to be the guy this week. They've already said that, and really last week David did not get a carry. He did have his first touch go for a 55-yard touchdown reception. It's a lot to do with, I think, the fact that he doesn't understand the blitz pickup, the keeping. We talked about this a little bit through text today with Rob, actually, who couldn't be here again. Go figure. David Johnson you got to keep Carson Palmer healthy, and I think that's really the big reason why Chris Johnson's going to be playing.
I'm staying away from
Have you
Johnson.
had enough of this Andre Ellington injury stuff, though? And I think Arizona has as well. What are the chances by Week 8 David Johnson is your starting running back in Arizona?
I think it's possible, but I think if Ellington's back, they still split time.
Because I heard on ESPN, and I don't remember the beat writer, the plan is that halfway through the season they're going to go to Johnson.
I think
Ellington's never going to just sit on the bench.
But I think that's always been the plan. I think we've all kind of drafted Johnson as such. I think we've all drafted Ellington as between the 20s guy and Johnson as the red zone guy.
I think by midseason it will be more as change of pace as Ellington, but your running back is David Johnson.
Sure.
And right now it's just a stopgap because he's still too green, and they want to keep Carson safe as best as possible, so they're playing Chris Johnson.
So
instead.
Chris Johnson, great matchup here against the Bears defense, but have you really touched him?
Yeah.
Yeah? You're trusting Chris Johnson.
If you need a running back, yeah. He didn't look bad last week. He really didn't. And, the only concern is how much work is he really going to get.
Top 25 guy this week?
I think I'd probably have him there at the very end of it. I mean, I'd have to. I don't do the rankings anymore. I'd have to look at these names, but I think so because he's, from all accounts, he's going to be the guy this weekend.
I can't get behind him. I have him way, way low this week. Let's run through here. We'll run through my, say, 22 through 27 guys, and you tell me what you think. Chris Johnson or D'Angelo Williams?
D'Angelo.
Yeah. Tevin Coleman?
Tevin.
Rashad Jennings?
Rashad Jennings.
Against Atlanta. Bishop Sankey?
Even though he's mean. He's blaming everything on his quarterback.
Go
ahead, Bishop Sankey. Yeah, Bishop Sankey.
Danny Woodhead?
I got this thing against Woodhead, but God, he
eight
looked good.
8 red zone touches.
I know.
Yeah, I think he had 16 touches in total.
Yeah,
he had a lot. Woodhead.
Okay.
Yeah. we'll go deeper down the list. TJ Yeldon against Miami.
That's where I stop. Okay, there we are. What number was that?
That was 27.
Top 27 running back.
I have Chris
Johnson.
For what it's worth, I have Chris Johnson 29.
Oh, so we're not too far off.
I have TJ Yeldon, then Melvin Gordon, and then Chris Johnson.
Yeah.
Melvin Gordon over Chris Johnson?
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
So number 28 running back, Chris Johnson. For me.
So Matt Forte looked good last week. Gets the Cardinals run defense. Trying to avoid. I mean, if you have him, you're starting him in season-long leagues. Staying away from a DFS. Done. Moving on.
Yep. I mean, hey, eight catches though. Everybody was worried. 8 catches.
A banged up Alshon Jeffrey with Patrick Peterson on him.
Patrick Peterson's a little bit overrated anyways.
Shut down Brandon Cooks. I know it's a totally different type of animal, Brandon Cooks versus Alshon, but
yeah. No, I mean you got Alshon. You're playing him. What are you asking me? No DFS. Who are you going to play over him?
Eddie Royal 1 catch on 5 targets.
Yeah, he coming back from a hip, a little bit hurt. Also did leave the game with concussion concerns, but did come back in. So I'm not ready to worry about him just yet. A little bit worried, but
Patriots and Bills. Patriots obviously blew up Thursday night in front, prime time, first game of the season.
How come you didn't want to talk about Forte getting 8 catches? Isn't that kind of exciting? He's kind of back on track. Everyone thought this would change with Trestman gone, but
one game.
Yeah.
Let's see how it plays out. Patriots at Bills. Obviously, Tom Brady finding his favorite Gronk receiver left and right and every which way. Gronk in his history has actually just lit up the Bills' defense, but the Bills do have a good defense this season. It's weird. I want to like Brady in this game because obviously he's just in a total fuck-off mode. I'm going to just crush it this year. But real tough against this defense. I mean, I'm worried a little bit about Gronk. You're starting him if you have him. Edelman, I want to like too because he looked at Edelman a lot on Thursday night. But again, both those guys really tough for me to own in like DFS.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, 3 guys that you're probably going to have to play because you don't have anybody better. But this is a great defense. I don't know if
they shut down Andrew Luck.
Yeah, I don't know if I should say great, but very, very good defense that I would look to avoid. With who I have. But again, if you have Brady, you probably don't have a better option. Obviously, you do not have a better option if you have Gronk. And Edelman, whether it's a tough defense or not, he's going to be one of the first reads every single play for Brady. So, you're playing all of them. Definitely not your favorite matchup, obvious. Dion Lewis?
Yeah. LeGarrette Blount's back.
Still staying away from Patriots running backs.
I want to see a week of LeGarrette Blount.
I know, but even if you see a week,
Dion Lewis together,
even if you see a week, you might not know what that means for next week. I'm staying away from him. Don't. What I'm trying to say is don't fall
oversleep
for it.
Jonas Gray style.
Yeah, don't fall for it. And LeGarrette will be the running back to play if you're going to play anybody.
Equally hard decision over here on the Bills side of the ball because they seem to really. I mean, McCoy 17 carries, but rather unproductive, and you saw Carlos Williams and Boobie Dixon both get the touchdowns. I mean, take me a running back against the Patriots defense without Vince Wilfork because, wow, they made D'Angelo Williams look really good last week, but tough for me to really like McCoy because it seems like the Bills don't really like McCoy, especially when they get into the red zone.
Well, you got to remember, too, he wasn't 100% last week. There's going to be your close down and distance to go situations where he's not going to get a ton of work. There's some big boys there with Boobie Dixon, Williams, who's definitely a north-south type guy as well. But the production, the touches will be there. He is one of those guys that only needs one play, and like you said, that New England run defense looked absolutely horrible last week. So D'Angelo Williams looked like he was 26 years old again. So I love LaShawn this week. He's actually a guy that I like in DFS as well because I think a lot of people are going to recall what he did last week and pivot away. He's going to be healthier, because he didn't come out worse for the wear from all accounts, and what seems to be a great matchup basing it off of what you saw last week. So I like him.
GPP's only for me from McCoy. I just don't trust him enough yet to put him in cash games.
I think after seeing this weekend, though, you got to make sure you go pick up Carlos Williams if you've got McCoy.
Yes.
They really like him. He had ascended to number 2 on the depth chart before his injury, whatever you wanted to call it, in the preseason. Comes back and right back into the mix of things here. They talk a lot about how much they like him there. He's a guy who I think wasn't a running back until his college at Florida State, so he's still kind of green with the position, but no nonsense. He's north-south type guy, and he looked pretty good in the limited work he got this weekend. So he's a guy. He's your handcuff.
Sammy Watkins literally shut down last week.
Yeah.
No catches. This week gets Malcolm Butler, who did do an adequate job against Antonio Brown. Percy Hoven, obviously the receiver for the Bills, with Tyrod Taylor back there. But even the Bills came out and said it's going to be a different receiver every week. So
yeah, but Sammy
Watkins, I'm not. If I can help it, I'm not playing a receiver catching passes from Tyrod Taylor. The volume's not going to be there enough for me. I don't know.
Watkins is a little bit, I think, a nice buy low candidate because Vontae Davis is one of the best cornerbacks in the league, and he had to deal with him all day. He's an extremely talented player, but it is going to be a ball control offense because they know they have a great defense, so there's not going to be a ton of opportunities
19 pass
there.
attempts last week.
Yeah, so I hear you, but I still, if a guy is panicking enough, no catches, really, make sure you point that out. I still think Vontae Davis had a lot to do with it, but I agree with you. This isn't going to be a high-flying, high-octane offense. They're going to be ball control. They know they have a great defense.
19 pass attempts last week for the Bills. 9 of them went to either a tight end or a running back. So
still like
check down
Taylor
Central.
and GPPs though.
Yeah, the rushing yards. That's what you're counting on.
He had a nice week.
Chargers and Bengals. We always discredit Phillip Rivers, and every year, beginning of the season, he always lights it up. And I think this could be another one where he lights it up.
Well, he's healthy.
This is what he does. Beginning of the season, he goes nuts.
Yep.
So, Keenan Allen we saw last week, 15 receptions. Stevie Johnson, 6 for 82 and a touchdown, I think.
Darius Green with a nice day. He's healthy right now. Last year, it coincided. His drop-off coincided with the injury, and I'm forgetting what it was right now. 'Cause I had him, so I remember it when it happened. It was like you could point to the
Hear
game.
that, Phillip Rivers? Matt had you, and he remembers.
Yeah.
He will never forget.
Never forget. He's healthy right now. It's Keenan Allen. Wow, huh? You gotta love the 15 catches. Touchdowns will happen. But
I started him in a lot of GPPs.
Yeah.
I liked him because with no Antonio Gates, and typically speaking, they hadn't really been going to Ladarius Green, and I just kind of wanted to pivot away from Stevie Johnson because I knew a lot of people would be on Stevie Johnson and GPPs. So I went with Keenan Allen in a lot of my GPPs, and it paid out great. 15 receptions. How can you... 166 yards. The only way it could have gone better was if he had just caught a touchdown, which apparently didn't want to happen.
Green, though, does that worry you if you're a Gates owner?
No. Gates...
If he continues to play like this, they're not going to just completely give the job back to Gates, I don't think.
No. See, I am a Gates owner, and I'll have to look it up here, but it's something like in the last 8 seasons, he's finished as a top 10 fantasy tight end. In each of the last 10 seasons.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But you've got a young up-and-coming player here, and you know that Gates is going to be gone pretty soon.
We've been saying that for years,
though. He is suspended because of his own doing.
No, we've been saying
this is a great opportunity to start the transition. So that's all. That's all I'm saying is if he continues to play like he did this week, how are you going to just take him off the field for a veteran who doesn't have much time left and is suspended because of performance-enhancing drugs for the first 4 games? It's, I don't know. I think there's something to look at there. I don't think it's going to be, just have Green now, and then when Gates comes back, you got him, and you got your tight end. There might be a situation where we're looking at a little bit more like Dwayne Allen, Kobe Fleener-ish.
Gates has finished as a tight end 1, a top 12 tight end, every season except his rookie season.
Yep.
Every season. So... no matter what Green does, you're not going to tell me that Gates is going to come back and not be a worst case scenario, top 15 tight end.
Really?
Worst case.
So what about in 2025? Are you still going to give me this stat?
No, obviously not, but...
it's going to happen someday.
Sure, he had 12 touchdowns last year.
Yeah. That was great. Just point it out there, that's all.
Over the last decade, take out his 4 touchdowns in 2013. What's the least amount of touchdowns he's had in a decade?
7.
Yeah.
I know.
Crazy.
I don't know, but that was a great guess. I should have just left it at that. People would be going, wow, how does he do that?
I don't know. If we'll have to see it, but
yeah, I just threw it out there. That's all I was doing. Just keep an eye on it.
What I do
Developing situation.
What I do see is Jeremy Hill. Wow, I love me some Jeremy Hill. I did not love me some Jeremy Hill going into the season. I love me some Jeremy Hill now.
Yeah, I felt the same way for the first half, kind of. Yeah, roughly the first half. But Bernard looked good as well. He's going to continue to find himself on the field. But, you know, the whole idea with this offense is run the football. They're both going to get plenty of opportunities. Gio will be a flex type. Great handcuff. You got to make sure you have him if you have Hill, because you won't lose much if Hill goes down. You'd get a guy who would then have all the workload, and very similar to like I'm pointing to the Reggie Bush. I'm sorry, Michael Bush days back in Oakland when McFadden was there. McFadden goes down, you'd have Bush who would do everything McFadden would do, because now you weren't worried about losing those goal line touches. It was him doing it all. Similar situation here. If Hill goes down, you got a top 10 running back still in Gio.
Gio's a top 10, yeah.
So you got to make sure you have him, is my point. But yeah, Hill, they're going to run the football. Hill's a beast. Gio, though, is going to continue to find himself on the field and be the thorn in your side when you're the Hill owner. Because it could be even better if Gio wasn't there.
Hill is tied with Danny Woodhead for the most red zone touches in the NFL right now. And I guess that's what seals it for me. He's a very, very good running back, and he's getting a lot of red zone work.
Yep.
And eventually, and even in this case, he had 2 touchdowns, but red zone work eventually will turn into touchdowns. That's what you want to look for if you want to buy low on people. For receivers, you want to find people that are getting a lot of targets but aren't getting touchdowns or aren't getting a lot of catches. Those are good buy low people.
Unless their name's Rashard Green.
Yeah. Or people like, well, not necessarily Jeremy Hill, because that's a bad example, but people that are getting a lot of red zone touches but aren't scoring touchdowns, which actually, now that I'm looking at it, is going against my D-Will talk. He had 6 red zone touches last week.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
So, hey, maybe that was just Carolina underutilizing.
That's why I said, who else if there's no one else there.
Sure.
But before we glance over the Chargers running game, a lot of people had high hopes for Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about Danny Woodhead, 8 red zone touches. None for Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon,
selling.
Phillip Rivers has said that he trusts Danny Woodhead in the red zone and he wants him in there. So you may be selling Melvin Gordon.
I'm selling Melvin Gordon.
I'm buying him.
No.
Because I thought he looked really good.
8-0 red zone touches?
I get it, but I thought he looked really good.
This wasn't
if
like
you can buy him low right now, I think the trust in him will increase as the season goes on. It's not going to be 8-0 every week, and as the season goes on, it's going to be more and more Melvin, I think.
If this was a 5-3 split in favor of Woodhead, I wouldn't be as worried. It's 8-zip.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Well, hey, we're on the opposite side of the fence here then.
Hey,
I'm hoping you're the guy.
I wish you're in my league where I had Melvin Gordon, because I am selling him and no one is buying.
Really? Yeah, I'd be buying. But for what cost? I mean, that's the question. If you can get him at a deal, that's what I'm talking, a buy low candidate.
Well, let's put it this way.
I think by mid-season, that 8-0 is going to be more along the 5-3.
Let's put it this way. Early this week, when we thought Des Bryant would be out 4-6, and it sounded like he's going to be out 8 now.
Yeah. I
offered Melvin Gordon for an injured Des Bryant and was shot down. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
If you were the Des owner?
You're right.
Thinking he was out 4-6?
Yeah.
Titans at Browns.
Wait a minute.
What?
I can't not talk about my boy, Tyler Eifert. You're welcome, everybody. 12 targets, 9 touchdowns, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's just realizing the potential. The physical attributes have always been there. He was splitting time with Gresham, last year he got hurt. We watched the plays
before we started this podcast. He was wide open. Oakland just left him wide open on almost every catch. Wide open.
Watch him move. Watch him run. Watch his size.
If that was Jermaine Gresham still playing for the Bengals, he would have blown up.
No. All right, whatever. Disagree with me, but Tyler Eifert. Top 5 wide tight end by the end of the season.
Titans and Browns. This is another one I think is going to be really ugly. I mean, you got the Manziel-led Browns against the Mariota-led Titans. And I guess a lot of people like Mariota after last week, but I think that was more about how bad the Bucs defense is than it is about
and
the
how bad Winston was.
Yeah, I think it was more about that than how good the Titans' offense is, and you will never hear me say that again, so take that soundbite. I don't know. I'm not a Mariota guy.
So, by the way, I'll eat a little crow here because I just talked about how awesome I was about Tyler Eifert. Dorial Green-Beckham,
Yeah.
0 targets.
Yeah.
Barely played. He had 1 target that was actually a penalty that was called back. I guess I got to temper my expectations, but I am not dropping him because by
I still
midseason
like him.
he's going to be their best wide receiver.
I think right now he's their best wide receiver.
Yeah.
He just needs to play and get targets.
Yeah, they got to just trust him a little bit. So I'll take that one on the chin.
Bishop Sankey last week had a really good day. 2 touchdowns, 74 rushing yards, averaged over 6 yards a carry, and now gets the Browns' run defense that allowed the most rushing yards in the league last season. Just saying.
Yeah, he looked good.
So weird to endorse Bishop Sankey 2 weeks
It's weird,
in a row.
isn't it? Yeah, but
Totally
we were
weird.
right last week. This week, you like to see Marcus Mariota. Yes, it was against a terrible defense, what we all think might be a terrible defense, and a quarterback.
Kind of get another terrible defense, though.
Yeah. But there's some things that we
Maybe
always
like-
talk about. Running quarterback.
Maybe lightning strikes twice.
You gotta account for Marcus Mariota's ability to break the pocket, to run. And that can, look, we've talked about it on podcasts before. Those linebackers, those safeties, they have to hold that extra step because you aren't sure, if Mariota is going to be the one to break loose. So I don't know. It's a nice situation right now. Obviously, they did trade for West, and West did get some work. But
my God, I hated it. I was
if you
so
look,
pissed.
if you
I
look
tweeted
into it
about
though,
that.
a lot of it was really more later on in the game.
No, it wasn't. He got
Sankey
yes, he did get a lot of his touches later on in the game, but he also got the first 4 cracks at their goal line carries.
Yeah,
which
but
bothered the fuck.
You know
out
what
of me.
Terrence West's nickname is? East West. They're going to realize quickly that even though he's 225 pounds, he's not a power type guy.
He had 4 shots from the 2, couldn't get in.
Exactly.
They finally gave it to Bishop Sankey. His first chance from the 2, he got in.
Yep. So take that into consideration. Hopefully the coaches will as well. Like I said, West, it was more of don't look into those touches and think, oh, God, we got a timeshare. It was a lot more work late for West because this game was over early. Marcus Mariota didn't play in the fourth quarter. Sankey hardly did. I don't even know if he did at all. So don't worry about that if you looked into that.
Speaking of touches, Isaiah Crowell and Duke Johnson.
I mean, it's pointing more and more. The little amount of time that Duke Johnson was available to practice, to play in the preseason, we're talking about a rookie who basically split time with Crowell. All signs are pointing to they really just want him to be the guy for me.
I think we're going to differ on this, but rest of the season, which one do you want?
Duke.
I want Isaiah.
Yeah, and I think Isaiah is a better player, but for some reason no one else does in the Cleveland Browns organization, so there's something I'm missing here. What makes you think that?
Isaiah had 3 red zone touches to Duke's 0.
Yeah, rookie who hasn't been there much, and they can't quite trust yet.
They gave more touches to Isaiah, and they're giving him the red zone work. So I think it's still going to be this 60-40 split, but I think it's going to stay with Isaiah.
I think
until his first fumbling issue pops up, which could be tomorrow.
I think Duke eventually takes the job, is what I think. Totally guessing.
Falcons, Giants. I want to say this is going to be another shootout, and Vegas seems to think it at a 51.5 over-under. But Eli Manning didn't look very good in what should have been a shootout last week. So, yeah. I don't know. I will say this. Matt Ryan loves himself some Julio Jones.
Yeah,
Roddy, I think
Matt Dougal loves himself some. Who doesn't?
I think Matt Ryan is realizing that Roddy has lost a step. There's no
Roddy looked good.
There's no more Tony Gonzalez or any other tight end emerging. So it is Julio, and then it's Julio, and then your third option is Julio.
No. It's Julio, and then Julio, and his third option is Roddy White. Roddy still looked pretty good. He looked like Roddy to me. He's a guy that I'm excited. I drafted him later on, and he looked pretty good. But, yeah, I mean, it's the second highest over-under of the week. I think it could be a high-scoring game. The Falcons' defense is going to be a little better this year with Quinn there.
It looked good.
You know, they looked really good in the first half. Chip Kelly kind of figured them out for the second half. But it's an improving defense, so we'll see. But, yeah, I guess over-under, second highest in the league. They're a little better than me. in Vegas. So you got to start. You got to start everybody, including Tevin Coleman.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
really good.
Devonta Freeman got the start, but Tevin Coleman was legit.
Yep,
he looked good. He looked good.
Freeman seems to be. He's going to be the passing down back, and it seems like their roles are already kind of set. We'll see if things change, but both of them banged up quite a bit throughout the preseason. But Coleman looked good. I liked how he ran the ball. Wasn't not much nonsense. A lot of north-south, which are a lot of times the rookies, you don't see that as much, so he looked good to me.
Odell Beckham on the Giants side obviously burned a lot of people, including myself, in DFS. And, regular season-long leagues, you're obviously starting him, but are you avoiding Odell Beckham this week in DFS?
No, I mean, I don't... They looked good, the Falcons' defense, but traditionally we know what they are, so... I'm not going to jump on their bandwagon just yet. Obviously, things have changed there. But, he got lit up in this game, in the Dallas game, by the safety. I think it was Jenkins, where it looked to me like he may have suffered a concussion, but he didn't. He kept playing.
See, I don't know.
Sometimes you can...
I don't know. I can't endorse Beckham at all for DFS because, for example, DraftKings pricing... Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, and Beckham all within $100 of each other.
Yeah, so, no, you're right.
I'm going...
Give me both of them over him.
Absolutely. In fact, Antonio Brown is the same price.
Except everyone else would say that, too, so...
All right, so GPPs
pivot.
maybe you pivot to an Eli Odell stack.
Yep.
And just hope they hit for 2 or 3. But, yeah, for cash games, I'm staying away. Staying away from the Giants running game, too. I'm just not interested.
Yeah, there's a lot of work going around a lot of places, or I don't know if it's a lot of work, but work's going around a lot of places. But we saw that it was very similar to last year. Jennings is still the guy.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Williams getting work. Vereen's still kind of mixed up in there.
Williams didn't get a ton of work though.
Yeah, I mean,
what did he get for carries?
6 carries.
Yeah,
it's not a ton, but. Rashad Jennings didn't get a ton either. He only had 13.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Shane Vereen chipping in with another 7 touches. So, I don't know.
Like I said, a lot of work, a little bit of work going around a lot of places.
St. Louis at Washington. Washington's defense, just like Atlanta's, looking really good. No Deshaun Jackson for this game. So, I'm actually really big on Pierre Garçon, who looked amazing. He looked back to 2013 Pierre Garçon, as did Jordan Reed. Both of those guys looked really, really, really good.
Well, Reed looks good when he plays. It's just about when he plays, and that's really the big thing to that line that I just spoke. The guy can't stay healthy. That's really his problem. The skills are there. There's no doubt about that. No one's going to argue that. It's just, can he stay healthy, and that's really the biggest concern. He's a great pickup for you this week. He's a tight end that if he stays healthy, you're going to be extremely happy with, but it's just hard to count on him. Deshaun Jackson's going to be out, so Pierre's going to hopefully have to step up a little bit there. I just never have been a Pierre Garçon guy.
I have been.
Yeah, I know you have.
And for what it's worth, last season in the split with Kirk Cousins and without, in the games with Kirk Cousins, Pierre Garçon averaged 4 more fantasy points a game. Mostly, it looks like due to his touchdown rate. His touchdown rate, obviously, a lot better with Kirk Cousins. Similar targets, similar receptions, a little bit better on the yards. But take that for what it's worth. 4 more fantasy points per game from Pierre Garçon, even last year. With Cousins in there. St. Louis side, Trey Mason on track to play, and it sounds like Todd Gurley has an outside chance of playing. So everybody loving Benny Cunningham and his min salary on all the DFS sites like I was last week. Just kiss that goodbye. That's not happening. I don't know. I'm staying away from all St. Louis guys.
Yep. Easy enough there for now. Todd Gurley's the guy, obviously.
When Todd Gurley gets back, we'll be all over it. Miami at Jacksonville. Lamar Miller, actually, we left him off the list, but another guy that really disappointed last week. Yeah,
and you know what? You mentioned I was very surprised to see what the Redskins defense did.
Yeah, they looked good.
There was even a
going back to that
turnover back in their zone. So you can kind of give one of those touchdowns to the Washington offense. I was very surprised. I thought Miami, that offense, would kind of be clicking and just eat up this Washington Redskins defense. So that was interesting to me. I thought they would be kind of one of those start your players against the Redskins,
I want to say this about the Miami-Jacksonville game. I heard this morning on Sirius Satellite Radio, they're talking about T.J. Yeldon and how this is a good matchup for him. And I was thinking to myself, what are you talking about? And Ndamukong Suh is just a run stuffer. He helped bolster that run defense so much just by being there. I couldn't really believe that. How are you feeling about T.J. Yeldon?
He plays for the Jaguars.
That's all the analysis you need. He plays for the Jaguars.
How am I feeling about him? I like him. He looks good, but he plays for the Jaguars.
It's kind of how I feel about Allen Robinson.
Yeah. But I don't know if I think he looks good.
Yeah. Dolphin side, though, Jarvis Landry, a guy that I think does look good and will be in a lot of my cash games. And I think I have him pretty high, actually, in my weekly rankings here. Where do I have Landry?
I think it's just weird how
Landry I have 13th this week.
You saw his punt return, the explosive talent that he showed there. It's just kind of weird how it doesn't seem to translate when he's catching the ball.
I think it's just because
how they use him.
How they use him.
Intermediate routes and short routes. He's kind of their possession guy. But
12 targets.
Open it up.
12 targets, 8 receptions last week.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. I just...
Almost as good as Tyler Eifert's 12 targets for 9.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know if I said that pretty quietly. I'm sorry, but what I said was almost as good as Tyler Eifert's 12 targets for 9.
People at home can't see me bashing my head against the microphone right now, but it's happening. Ravens at Raiders. Matt, we talked about this earlier today. I was watching Latavius Murray. I was watching the tape on him last week. They are just not giving him any holes to work with.
Yeah.
You like seeing the receptions out of the backfield, which is great.
Yeah.
That's something that wasn't part of his game last year, or at least not a big part of his game, but he has no holes to work with.
No, but I took away, game flow here, starting quarterback going down, Carr. McGloin shouldn't be in the NFL. He's horrible. The thing I really liked to see was the 7 catches. That it's a narrative you can look at it as, no matter what the game flow is, he's going to stay involved. So that 18 touches from my running back, give me that every week. I'm happy.
As a Vikings fan, how does it make you feel that Matt McGloin is in the NFL and Christian Ponder isn't?
I know, huh? He may be better than Matt McGloin. Let that sink in for a second. He may be better than Matt McGloin.
Ravens side, I like Justin...
Matt McGloin looks fat.
I like Justin Forsett in this game. I think game flow is going to be in their favor, and even if it's not, I think Justin Forsett gets utilized a lot in the passing game.
Be careful of Justin Forsett. He's banged up.
I still like him.
Did not practice today, as far as I know, right?
I did not see that. But,
yeah. I'm pretty sure he did not practice, or it was in limited fashion today. Today's my 11-hour workday. It sucks having a real job outside of this stuff, so I didn't get to see it all. But I'm pretty sure he didn't practice, or at least a limited fashion.
Yeah, he was limited today with the shoulder.
Yeah, so there's just keep an eye on that. That's obviously we're doing this on a Wednesday, so it's a fluid situation. Keep an eye on it.
Nah, not worried about him and the Oakland defense allowing 2 touchdowns last week to Jeremy Hill. So I think we could very easily see that for Forsett this week.
Yeah, hopefully it's going to be a bounce back game for Forsett.
I mean, the passing attack there, Steve Smith did nothing last week. The 34-year-old Steve Smith. No Brashad Perryman, so they're leaning on guys like Marlon Brown and Kamar Aiken. So I think in a game like this, they could lean on Justin Forsett.
Yeah, and everybody keeps saying how Steve Smith dropped that touchdown. He didn't. It was tipped ever so slightly.
I didn't see that one yet. I'll have to go back and see it.
Corner of the end zone. He fast in full speed. Looks like he dropped a simple touchdown pass, but it was just barely ricocheted off the fingertips, outstretched fingertips of the DB, and it's tough when you're a foot away from the guy and the ball gets deflected and changes his flight. He didn't drop it.
Cowboys, Eagles, Tony Romo now with no Dez Bryant. This is another game that's projected to be a shootout, has the highest over-under of the week, so you want to love the guys in here, but it's tough for me to love them. I mean, Bradford picked it up in the second half last week, but did not look good in the first half.
No.
I love me some Jordan Matthews. That seems to be the only guy he looks at. Nelson Aguilar, the guy that started opposite Matthews, only had 2 targets.
Yeah.
I mean, You kept hearing all this talk about how Aguilar would be fantasy relevant sooner rather than later. That was coming out of the Philadelphia camp, and definitely wasn't sooner.
Yeah. Week 1 was interesting. Like you said, kind of the tale of two halves in Philadelphia. They looked quite a bit better in the second half. Bradford, he looked very good in the second half. And, I mean, obviously that touchdown that interception at the end was not his fault right off Matthews' hands. Plus, he had a touchdown to Matthews that Chip Kelly should have reviewed. They ended up scoring with Ryan Matthews, I think, just a play or two later. Yeah. But that was a passing touchdown. If they reviewed it, I think he was in that pylon there. So Bradford is a guy that he's a guy that I like in DFS this week because I think a lot of people
always cheap.
And I think a lot of people are going to go, well, last week wasn't so good. I saw a really nice second half out of him. I expect him to kind of pick up where he left off. So
I think it was FanDuel again that priced him as the number 18 quarterback.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I made a few lineups today. He's in one of them.
Absolutely crazy. I have Bradford this week as my number 6 quarterback.
Yeah, so you like him quite a bit, too.
I like him a lot. Cowboys side, we mentioned it. Des Bryant out for this game.
Don't worry, they traded for Bryce Butler, though. He'll be fine.
Thank God. I think this means, obviously, more Terrence West, more Cole Beasley.
Williams.
Terrence Williams and Cole Beasley. I like Cole Beasley more. I just never been a Terrence Williams guy, but I am buying into the fact that Terrence Williams is now going to get 130 targets this year. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be up there. He's going to get the workload, so he's going to be a top 20 wide receiver because the volume says he's going to have to be.
Yeah, like you said, the 4 to 6 week time frame was kind
really
of appalling to me. Yeah, it's more like 8. This is the same injury that Julio Jones had a few years ago. It's the same injury that Kevin Durant had, who came back a little too early and then missed much more time.
I hate to bring it up, same injury that Marvin Jones had.
Yeah. And so, like I said, Durant is a basketball player. It's got to be a little different because that floor is so hard, but the 4 to 6 weeks thing, that's crazy. I'm expecting more like 8, regardless of what you're hearing out there. Williams, though, it's tough because they don't ask him to do a lot right now, so I don't really know how he's going to be with the full route tree. When you're the number one guy and defenses are rolling coverage towards you and they're focusing more on you, we'll see. Can he overcome that? I don't know. But Beasley, he's the guy that plays the slot because that's who they have, but I think he's pretty overrated. He fumbled again last week, which killed him in a playoff game last year.
Let me ask you this. If you're
Williams for me, I like him more.
If you're the Cowboys and you lose Dez and you have a great offensive line, maybe you go more to the run.
Yeah, but who really played well last week running the football?
That's Dunbar.
No, he had 8 catches.
But that brings up another point. Now that you don't have Dez, and now that you may potentially lean on the running game, and you've now realized that Darren McFadden, Joseph Randle, not all that exciting, does Christian Michael see the field a little bit sooner?
Yeah, I guess a little sooner. He's still got to obviously get up to snuff with what they're doing in Dallas, By
the way, did you see the pictures of Darren McFadden that they showed in the promo? I don't know if you saw it, but a couple of times during the broadcast, they were showing him, kind of flexing his muscles with a fake background and back of him and stuff like that. If you looked in very, very close, on the bottom of the picture, socks and sandals. No lie, full uniform, socks and sandals.
He's just coming out of the locker room. What's wrong with that?
Socks and sandals.
I'm good with that.
Who does that? Who does a photo shoot in socks and sandals? Who wears socks and sandals together?
I'm wearing socks and sandals right now.
Ah, God.
Just nobody can see it.
Let's move on here, though, because we're running a little bit long tonight. Seahawks, Packers.
Hey, good call. I'll give it to you. Jason Witten.
Yeah, and he's going to be another good call this weekend because he's going to be the red zone guy now. Touchdown this weekend, Jason Witten.
Escobar.
Touchdown this weekend.
Touchdown last weekend. Do you think they go to more double tight end sets with?
Of course they will.
Right. So
of course they will. I'll bring it up here real quick to see.
If Witten got hurt, Escobar would be a guy I'd be all over. By the way,
absolutely.
He is. I think when Witten finally retires, they're not going to miss a beat.
Yeah, it's going to be all.
It's going to be a while, but
it's going to be all Jason Witten. You're on Escobar. How many snaps did Escobar play?
It's regardless. I'm talking this week. The injury.
I thought you were saying you liked him this week too.
Coming up.
Yeah.
I think what I'm saying is that I'm not playing him at all. I think I was bringing it up because I think they're going to change the way they do things a little bit. Like you said, they're going to go to I think more of a double tight end set. Go ahead and tell me how many plays did he have?
9 snaps for Escobar.
Yeah.
9. On the flip side, Jason Witten, the only other positional player other than Tony Romo that played in every snap.
Well, he's a great blocker. He's never going to come off the field, but I think they're going to go to more 2 tight end sets. That's all.
Okay. Moving on to Seahawks Packers. Listen, this is one thing I really, really want to stress to a lot of people out there. Last week, everybody loved Devontae Adams for DFS. He's too cheap. He's the Packers' number 2 receiver. Blah, 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 blah. Did not put up the best game, but I don't think that should change your opinion of him this week, even though it's a tough matchup against the Seahawks. Am I crazy? I am still on Devontae Adams.
How tough a matchup is it? They let up 34 points last week. Cam Chancellor does a lot of what they do.
I was going to say that. No Cam Chancellor, no Byron Maxwell.
Right.
So really it's just Sherman.
Yeah. Well, Earl Thomas is outstanding as well. Although shoulder surgery, he might not be able to be what he used to be.
I'm just saying, I don't think everybody should jump off the Devontae Adams bandwagon so quickly.
Right, I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, this defense, after last week, and with Cam not there, obviously Maxwell gone too, I don't know if they're quite what they were. So,
meanwhile, on the other side of the ball here, Marshawn Lynch, love him. Number 1 running back this week for me.
Number 1.
They gave up 141 rushing yards to Matt Forte.
Yeah, I hear you.
This is how you're going to beat the Packers. You're going to run the ball. That's what the Bears were trying to do. They were trying to keep Aaron Rodgers off the field. And let's be honest, the Seahawks did not look good last week. Russell Wilson, Jimmy Graham, they didn't look good. Marshawn Lynch.
Jimmy Graham had a touchdown in his first game ever in Seattle.
Yes, 1 touchdown.
Russell Wilson looked fine. What was he, 26 for 32?
I don't know.
Didn't get much better than that.
They didn't impress me. I think lean more on Marshawn Lynch this game. Obviously, you can run the ball against the Packers. I think Lynch has a big game. I think he goes over 100 yards and gets maybe 2 touchdowns this week.
Does the Seattle defense worry you for Eddie Lacy owners like me?
Yes, it still does.
Yeah.
It's still Seattle. I'm still a little worried. You got him in season-long leagues. You're starting him. I'm staying away from him in DFS. That's looking at it real quick here. Actually, Lynch and Lacy on DraftKings both priced exactly the same. I would much rather have Lynch.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
I don't think that's close. Jets at Colts on Monday night. The Colts, we just talked about it a little while back. Andrew Luck struggled against the Bills. Now he's going to get Darrelle Revis and company. Antonio Cromartie, I think, a little banged up, but could struggle a little bit here with Revis and, I'm assuming no T.Y. Hilton.
Right, a little bit banged up. Isn't Cromartie had a pretty serious injury, didn't he?
Did he? I'll look it up, but
it was kind of brutal looking watching.
Let's assume for a second no T.Y. Hilton. Andre Johnson did not look good, and could potentially have Darrelle Revis on him.
This is a game I have not gone back and rewatched. I've seen a good amount of them. That's the narrative I keep hearing about Andre. I got to see it for myself to believe it. It could have been the fact that he's in a new situation. Again, when you're, most people that are listening to this have played sports, I'm sure. When you can go out there and just react without thinking, you seem to be a lot faster. You know what I mean? So you got to figure a guy who's in a new place. It's his first game.
It's Andre Johnson. Don't do that.
I don't know.
Don't do that.
I just can't believe that the rug is just fallen out from underneath him this quickly. I bet you he's fine. I got to see it for myself. I'm not believing everybody else.
Steve Smith, equally as old when he made the move to the Ravens, did fine.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Before I go with what everybody else is saying, I haven't seen it myself. I just want to see it. But
Antonio Cromartie's injury was hyperextended knee, and they're saying they're not going to rush him back, which makes me believe he's going to miss this.
Oh, it was only hyperextended. That's good. I thought it was worse than that.
But still, when they say they're not going to rush him back into playing,
he won't be playing this week.
He won't be playing this week.
After seeing it, I'm good. That's good. That's all it was. Moncrief is. If Hilton doesn't play, I like him.
I get it. He's a poor man's Devontae Adams. We just talked about him.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
Got him in a lineup I've created as of tonight.
I'm trying to not get too excited about Moncrief.
Why? If you hated Andre like you do, and Ty may not play, Moncrief. Yeah. What? Why not? He's extremely inexpensive.
Yeah. Jets side, one guy that I do really like, again, Chris Ivory, really cheap in DFS
My
again.
boy!
And the Colts, they let up a lot of rushing yards last week. I know it was to 3 different guys on the Bills, but they did let up, I think it was like 140-something yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns. Chris Ivory, cheap in DFS again, really high in my season-long rankings too for this week. I really like Chris Ivory. I don't like any of the Jets receivers. You talked about earlier with Vontae Davis. Bye-bye Brandon Marshall. So Eric Decker, can't really get too excited about him either. I just really like Chris Ivory. Bad game script here because they are projected to lose by over a touchdown. So that does worry me a little bit about Ivory, but if I'm starting somebody from the Jets, it's Ivory.
I think Davis is better than Hayden, and Hayden didn't really give Marshall much of a problem last week. Marshall's good enough that I don't know if it matters who the corner is on him. Obviously, it's going to make it a tougher day. But Ivory, don't worry so much about the 20-12 for Bilal Powell. I'm forgetting now, but 6 of the carries came in either the fourth quarter or just the second half. So it wasn't.
Yeah, they were blowing him out, so I got to believe it was late.
Yeah, it wasn't as close as you think when you look in the box score. Ivory looked awesome. He always does. When he's healthy, he just runs like he should be a superstar. Yeah. He just has never really gotten the full workload, and I think this is the year that he is. We hope that he stays healthy. Another guy that, you had him ranked pretty high last week. We talked about it last week. We liked him coming into the week, obviously against that Browns defense. And this week, similar situation, a defense that I'm not scared about. Let up 2 rushing touchdowns last week to the Colts. Who did they play? I don't have it in front of me.
Who'd play?
Colts.
The Bills.
Yeah, Bills. So not exactly, a running back too that is a little bit banged up there on LaShawn McCoy. So I think you can expect another nice week out of Ivory. And like you said, he's still rather inexpensive. I had him all over the place in DFS last week.
I still have him all over the place this week. That's going to do it, guys. I know we ran a little bit long today. Before we go, I just wanted to mention real quick, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Marcus Katkin. Follow Matt at Matt Dougal. If you're liking the podcast, leave us some reviews. That would be very, very helpful. Matt, you got anything else you want to leave us with?
I'm back this Sunday. Came in second place at the local charity golf tournament with the team. So
there was only 2 teams playing, guys.
Yeah, there were only 2, but big deal.
Yeah.
I'm back this week, so you can hit me up on Twitter. I'll be there from 12 to 1.
Oh, and in case you guys missed it last week, I am giving out my cash game lineups on the website. I put them up on Friday. So this Friday they'll be coming out again. If you want to get my cash game lineups, I'm literally giving you my lineups. Go ahead and stick them in your cash games.
Free 99.
Yeah, free 99. So go check those out. They'll be coming out on Friday. DraftKings, FanDuel cash lineups. In fact, I think I might do it a little bit differently this week and not only give you a Sunday, Monday cash game lineup, but I might also do a Sunday early lineup and a Sunday late lineup.
And give us a Thursday through Monday. Everybody, it's exciting to watch the Thursday night games when you've got guys involved.
See, that's the thing. I'm staying away from Thursday night guys in DFS. So, really not worth it for me.
Sure. I still play them just so I can have the excitement of rooting for them on Thursday nights. It makes it that much more fun.
You're one of those amateurs that does that. You should not do that.
Make sure you talk, Matt. Amateur. Make sure you tweet Marcus on Tuesday after his lineups. Do what you do.
All right. We're finishing the podcast with Matt saying doo-doo. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.